What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of the AST Call-In Show. I'm Noah Streckbine. Find us always on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Check me out anywhere you get your podcast. Today, we are 1 week away from the Pittsburgh Steelers reporting to 2025 training camp, and I am so excited to dive into the news with you, but just as we prepare for the players to get back, there are still plenty of questions. Obviously, TJ Watt remains unsigned, and the Pittsburgh Steelers and many others still have no idea how that's going to turn out. They don't know what their offense exactly is going to look like. Many think this is what it's going to look like. Others think that we are not there yet. We'll dive into that and more, and I am very excited to see what you guys bring to the table today. Shout out to all of our members and those who called in to today's call-in show. Can't thank you guys enough. If you want to become a member of the YouTube and call in to every Wednesday's call-in show, you could do so by clicking the link in the description below. And with that said, I won't hold us up anymore. Let's keep it trucking.
Hey, Noah, it's American Steel. What's up, man? Three things. First, I would love to see a weekly walk-around video in the city, not just like your walk-over for games. After a 21-year Air Force career, I love seeing the Pittsburgh neighborhoods behind you. It's actually the only way my wife has seen them.
That's crazy.
I'm sure I'm not the only Pittsburgh native not living there that loves to see that. Second,
awesome.
Let's get Jacob some AST gear. I haven't seen him wear anything yet. And then maybe we can have him design a Mr. Jacobs neighborhood sweater. Third, what is your favorite part of the game day experience?
Oh, great question.
Thanks, man.
Great question. Shout out American Steel, man. I've had many thoughts of adding to the content with like real life outdoor videos, because that's the toughest part, is trying to have a life outside of working all the time while constantly wanting to work. You know, like it gets really tough sometimes, especially in the off-season stretches where, you know, it's a Thursday morning and I've got nothing to do because the news is slow, but I have things on my mind that I want to talk about, but we got to wait until the podcast to talk about it. And at the same time, I want to go walk down to the gym, you know, or I want to go golfing or whatever. And I have thought many times I should make videos out here. I should make videos as I'm heading here. And I think you might have just, you know, kind of lit the light bulb or give me the confirmation that I needed. So shout out to that one. I've got a lot of things that are on the brain constantly in terms of adding to this channel. So I appreciate you too. We are working on getting Jacob some AST gear. We get once a month, we get like free or discounted gear or whatever. And, you know, because we don't sell enough gear right now, we don't sell enough merchandise right now to wholesale it. So it's individually made. Once we get to a point where we will wholesale it, the whole logistics thing, it'll work out better. But in the meantime, once a month, we get like real cheap discounted gear. But there's a limit on how much you could buy. And I told Jacob the other day, I said, you're going to get a hat because to start, and then we're going to work on more, because I've been sending stuff out every month to people who, you know, like, whether a fan hits me up and they have a birthday going on, or a fan hits me up and, you know, this happened or that happened, or we just have a conversation or whatever, you know, like I want to make sure that I, you know, use it to my, not to my advantage per se, but use it for the greater good. That's what I'd like to use the discounted stuff for. So Jacob's slowly working on it. He's next on the list for sure. We got some stuff coming. I agree. And third, my favorite part of the game day experience. This is a great question. The walkovers easily on there. I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's certainly up there. I mean, there's sometimes like, you know, you're just having a rough day. Sometimes you're just feeling like you're not good enough. Sometimes it's a boring weekday and nobody's reading your stuff, or a video got bad views or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you think about that. This is my livelihood. Like it affects me. It affects the mentals. And sometimes I'll do the walk over and I'll stop right at that light, right where I stop every time, right in front of the T station. And I'll have somebody look at me and be like, hey, you're really good at that. You should do that for your job. And I'm like, thank you Very much, actually. I appreciate that. And it does. It makes my whole day, sometimes my whole week. So the walkover is definitely good. We have some awesome stories. I mean, whether it's getting stopped, it's still, I think my favorite moment ever on a game day is getting stopped to talk about Italian restaurants in Pittsburgh. That's still, nothing made me feel cooler. The just to watch the game from the press box is a whole different experience, I would say. You're up there, you get a different view. You have your eyes on different things. You're talking in different ways than you would if you're sitting on the couch talking to your dad or your pal or whoever. um it's different. The conversations that are in the press box are more, they're deeper, and they're more business oriented in a way of like, oh, how does this impact the bigger picture of things, and that kind of stuff, which I think is really fascinating. And it's one of my favorite things about Sundays. The food, you go to a good place, man. You go to a good away venue. Pittsburgh's got food, you know what I mean? The chicken tenders and fries at halftime, undercooked, but I'm very grateful for them. You go to some places and the food's unreal. And then I think afterwards, like, just sometimes, obviously, talking to players is cool. That's one of my favorite parts of my job. That's why I got into this. Watching football is cool. Sometimes afterwards, you're like walking to your car afterwards and it's super late at night, 2, 3 in the morning, and you're the only one out. And it's just like a moment of gratitude where you're just like, this is cool, man. Like I'm strolling into my house at 3 in the morning. My wife's passed out and I'm sitting on the couch. I turn on ESPN and I, get some leftover dinner from whatever she made. And I'm just sitting there like, I get to do this. This is crazy. So it's more of a internal thing, I would say. Those are the externals, definitely talking to the players and, sometimes being in the tunnel when Mike Tomlin comes in all hyped up, that stuff's cool. This is a great question. I appreciate that this is the way we started this thing off.
What's going on, Noah? It's your boy, Potato Salad here.
Yes,
I
sir.
got a short question for you this week because I've been out of
Hit
the
me with
loop
it.
from my normal and informative state.
Hey, all good.
I can remember the moment that I became a Steelers fan. I had a weird household. My mom's a Chargers fan. My dad's a Dolphins fan. My sister's a Broncos fan. And I ended up with the Steelers. It was watching Bettis punch in a little goal line and then Troy on Sports Center highlights. I know you're a Pittsburgh native, so I'm sure you didn't have much of a choice in the matter, as it should be. But if you do have a moment, what was the moment that you remember is like the first time you not bought in, but where you got sold?
Yeah.
I hope all's well. I really appreciated the kind words after the messaging about promotion. I showed my wife. She was almost tearing up. You guys are awesome. Thanks.
Shout out Potato Salad, man. First off, I want to say congratulations again, because definitely well earned if it was given. And it's cool to see somebody in the community thrive. If you're winning, we're all winning. And at the end of the day, that's awesome. So cool story here. My household is a little bit like yours, and I'm not a Pittsburgh native. Moved to Pittsburgh to finish college at Point Park, man, 10 years ago now. It's been a while. Not 10, 6, 7, 8 years. It's been a while. But I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania, right outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania, originally. I grew up in a household where my mom was an Eagles fan. My dad was a Broncos fan, so shout out your sister. And my brother was a Green Bay Packers fan. And then I had an older brother, or have an older brother, who was a Steelers fan. And for a long time, my dad and my brother would battle it out. I'd get a Broncos jacket for Christmas, and then my brother would make sure that I sat down and watched a game on Sunday and all that stuff. The moment I really became a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, like truly invested in the Pittsburgh Steelers, was a loss, actually. And it wasn't a moment of like I fell in love with the team. It was a moment of like me realizing how invested I was. I just got done with like a Pee-wee football team, or a Pee-wee football game. I was coming off, all sweaty and gross, and I walk up to the concession stand with my parents, and in the background is the Steelers game, and they're losing to the Browns, and I immediately got mad. Like I was immediately upset that they were losing, and like they were losing bad. They were getting crushed. You know, shout out Tommy Maddox. He was the quarterback at the time, and I just remember like I just remember like realizing in that moment, like because I do remember going back and forth between the Broncos and the Steelers, and I always lean the Steelers, but like you want to make your dad proud, so I was hanging on by the ledge of a Broncos fan, and I just remember in that moment being like, I'm a Steelers fan. Like this is what I am, and I don't think I ever turned back. And then you fall in love deeper and deeper. But the moment that always sticks out, the most joy I ever had was watching them win the Super Bowl against the Cardinals, because I was old enough to like embrace it and like really be like, wow, this is incredible. But when they beat the Seahawks, and Hines, jumped his way into the end zone, that was the first moment of like, this is like the coolest thing that could possibly be happening. And it was like, it was another moment of me realizing like just how awesome football is, just how awesome being a fan is. Those are what stood out to me, but it was a loss to the Browns. It was a bad loss to the Browns. And my dad was, he tried. He definitely tried, man. And I look good. Don't get me wrong, because Steelers classy, the black and yellow classy. And I'm thankful that I got black and yellow. It just matches everything. I could wear it with anything. Like it's if I was walking around orange and blue, I'd look weird all the time. But I did, like as a little kid, man. I was swagging out in those big giant throwback Broncos jackets. So shout out to Big Don, but no, didn't grow up in Pittsburgh, wasn't forced into it. It was a real open book, actually tried real hard to push the other way. Now, don't get me wrong, Jessup, Pennsylvania, it's real weird because there are like the random fans, but it's mostly Steelers fans, a lot of Steelers fans up here. And then a lot of Eagles fans. But, and then a surprising amount of Dolphins fans. I'm going to be honest, which is just the worst. I'm thankful. For anything, I'm thankful I didn't end up a Dolphins fan. That would have been the worst. So those are the moments. Shout out to Tommy Maddox, man. Everybody talks Cordell Stewart. I remember Cordell Stewart. I loved Cordell Stewart, but Tommy Maddox was like the first. I was upset when Ben like got drafted because I didn't like realize what it meant at the time. I was like, I didn't realize Tommy like wasn't the guy that was going to win a Super Bowl, but I was like, that's my quarterback, man. What are you doing? And here we are. So, picked a good time, but yeah, that's how the journey of Noah Strackbine getting here actually started.
I know, it's Maddie calling
out.
in because I saw the email or the post on the channel.
Thank you.
Off the fly question.
Hey, hit me.
What do you think our legitimate chance now is to get Terry McLaurin?
Oh, it's a good question.
And how much would he want to get paid realistically?
Would
we have to move people around? Would we have to give up capital for him? Well, I know we would have to give up capital, but like what or
salary cap space. Yeah, I hear you.
And give me a hot take. I like hot takes.
Maddie does love the hot takes, man. All right, let's start with Terry McLaurin while I think of a hot take here. Okay, Terry McLaurin, Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's more realistic than it's been. I still don't think it's like I don't think it's probable, but I do think the door is cracked, and you just can't say never. You can never say never with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've held on to that statement all offseason, and it's worked out really well for me twice. I was the only believer that DK Metcalf could end up in Pittsburgh as the only media member, the only one. And I don't take the victory laps, but I'm going to take them this offseason. I was the only one that held truth to DK Metcalf potentially becoming a Pittsburgh Steelers. Nick Belsky sat on the show and told me I was crazy, and then DK Metcalf ended up in Pittsburgh. I still remember writing the story at the Square Cafe in Pittsburgh that I thought that DK could end up with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I got an email almost immediately from that story going out telling me it'll never happen. It'll never happen. It happened. Jalen Ramsey. Even Schefter was saying it's unlikely, it's not going to happen. And I just said, you don't make phone calls if it's just a door shut, if it's not open, it's cracked. And if it works out, the Steelers are going to make a move. And They did it. So I can't sit here and say Terry in the door is shut. I think it's cracked. How open it is, I don't think it's very open. I think it's minimally, I think it's just slightly open. Omar's got to do the rest. And maybe Omar pulls it off. Maybe that's a real thing. It wouldn't stun me if it happened. Like, I wouldn't be blown away that the Pittsburgh Steelers just ended up with Terry McLaurin. But I don't think I would predict that it would happen as much as I would predict that DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey could end up in Pittsburgh. Terry just seems different. He's going to want over $30 million a year. It's more than DK. You're 28 years old. This is the last giant contract of your career. He's looking for $32-ish million a season to start off with. Probably goes up to north of 35 by the end of it. 4-year deal. You're 32 when it ends. I think he's worth it. I don't think the Steelers would pull it off. I think it would make things complicated as well. Like, I think you'd have some decisions to make next season regarding some guys. If you're going to bring Jonnu Smith back, you're going to have to bring him back for cheap somehow. You better hope that Joey Porter Jr. doesn't cost an arm and a leg, that Patrick Queen works out, and that you got a third year for him pretty cheap. You got to hope that TJ and it doesn't affect you long term. Like, I don't know. There's a lot that goes into it. The Steelers have decisions to make over the next year or two. I think Terry, again, I think the door is open. I don't think it's likely, but I think the door is open. I don't know what the Steelers would have to give up in terms of creating the cap space. I think you could just make it work. And I think a lot of that would be like Terry signing a deal as soon as he's traded, and that makes the cap hit lower this year. And then it's like pretty significant next year. But it leaves you minimal space to make moves next year, which, again, if you're all in this year, who cares? And if you feel like you got a team that's young and good enough and you don't have to spend the money next year, who cares? But if you are worried that it's going to cost too much money, I think that's where the Steelers pullback comes. I don't think it's about having 2 superstar wide receivers. I think they'd love that. I think they'd add all the superstars they can. I think it truthfully is about the money this time. And I think at some point you run out of money. And I think the Steelers might be getting dangerously close. Again, I think it's cracked. I do think it's cracked. I don't think it's likely, but I think the door is cracked. When it comes to a hot take, man, hot takes are tough this time of year. It's July 16th. Training camp's in a week. I'll give you a training camp one. I'll give you 2, because I'll give you a boring one that's not really that hot, but I think it's going to be. I think Jaylen Warren's going to be the most impressive person at Steelers training camp. I think he's going to look unbelievable at Steelers training. My hot take would be people have written off Jaylen Warren well before they should ever write him off. That people are just so excited about Caleb Johnson and what the future is that they are completely ignoring that the Pittsburgh Steelers have another really good running back who's played in the NFL, who's proven that he's really good in the NFL, in Jaylen Warren. And I think you're going to get that. I do think you're going to get that. So I would go Jaylen Warren. My other one, man, my other hot take is that the Steelers' next edition is going to be a starting safety, but I'm not totally sold that it's going to be through the free agency market. I mean, there are teams out there. We just talked about the Denver Broncos. They've got 2 backup safeties who I think are capable of being starting safeties in the NFL. They have guys like Riley Moss, who I think could be versatile enough to move around, who just got benched because you got Jahdae Barron in the first round. I think there are teams out there who are going to have excess, and I think the Steelers are going to make some phone calls. So my second hot take, maybe a little bit juicier, is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to add a safety, but I'm not 100% sold that safety is going to come through for the free agency market. And instead, I think there might be a safety trade on the Steelers' hands. And for anybody who's sitting around going like the Steelers should not be trading for a safety, they should. I think a safety is a more glaring need than a wide receiver at this point, because if your safety position stinks and Juan Thornhill, who's been a very up and down player in his career, isn't a guy that needs to be out there 100% of the snaps, you don't have another option. You are out of options. So you got to go get somebody. And I think that it's pretty up there. So those are my hot takes. Appreciate you, Maddie.
Hello.
It's David. Curious
David.
to see, as far as the Steelers roster go, what
Yes,
are
sir.
moves that you would say need to happen before week one? So you
Great
say,
question.
like, our roster is ready to go. Like, obviously, re-signing TJ would be big. What other moves would you want to happen, realistically, before week one to say, we're ready to start? But if you think that differs from what you think the Steelers would do, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what would you do to make our roster complete for week one? But what do you think
Sure.
realistically the Steelers would do to make our roster good to go for week one? Thanks, Noah.
Great question. I think there are 2 moves left, and I think it's real easy. I think there's 3 moves left. If it was up to me, I'd go sign a swing tackle, but I just don't think they're going to sign a swing tackle. I'm kind of losing hope on that one. It's Calvin Anderson, and they like Calvin Anderson. I don't think I'm as high on Calvin Anderson, but again, dealt with some stuff last year, came in on a moving train. Maybe I'm judging the guy, and I shouldn't be judging the guy. I'd go get a safety. It'd be the first thing I did. I'd go sign Justin Simmons tomorrow. And there's just no excuse not to sign Justin Simmons tomorrow. There's none. If he's $7 million, you could afford him, and you go get him for a year, and he's your guy. And then Juan Thornhill comes off the bench, and your secondary is ridiculous. Like, ridiculous. It's not good. It's ridiculous. You have Justin Simmons, Deshaun Elliott, and Juan Thornhill in your safety position with Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., Corey Trice, Brandon Eccles, Beanie Bishop, and Dante Kent at your corner. You kidding me? That might be the best secondary in the NFL. Like, that's insane. And if TJ's back, which, it all starts with signing TJ, but I'm not worried. They're going to sign TJ. I mean, their defense is on paper ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'd go sign a safety immediately. Be the first thing I did. The second is I'd make some realistic phone calls for a wide receiver. I'd call the Washington Commanders and just get a price tag on Terry McLaurin. I'd call the San Francisco 49ers and get a price tag on Juwan Jennings. I'd probably call the Green Bay Packers and just put a feeler out there to say, hey, what's Romeo Doubs or Tre'Davious Wicks? What are these guys worth? Would you be willing to give up a guy like Christian Watson? Let's have those conversations. I'd call the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they got some guys like McMillan and even Trey Palmer, who I don't think is great, but he's another option. I'd make those phone calls. And then by the season, I'd trade for one of those guys. I'd go out and get somebody. I think Trey Palmer is like, I'm testing the waters with Roman Wilson before I go get Trey Palmer. I think I feel the same way about McMillan, but they're not bad. I think Wicks, I think Dobbs, I think Jennings, and I think McLaurin are all starters and are your easy addition next to DK Metcalf. So I would go there. I'd go sign a swing tackle after that one. And I'd feel pretty good about where we're at, to be honest. I don't think the Steelers have many holes left. I think there are 2 glaring ones and one that is very slept on, that is significant, that if they find themselves in an injury situation where Troy or Broderick goes down, they are screwed, but they've kind of done it to themselves. Those would be the 3 moves that I made. I'd start with signing TJ, but that's a given that I don't include that in the 3. And then it would go from there. And those would be easy. And I think the Steelers roster at that point is set. What they do with it, we'll find out. But I think it looks way better than it does a year ago. I don't think there are any glaring holes that you have to really worry about. And I think it comes down to coaching and execution. So if it was me, if I was Omar Khan, I'd finish off that way. And to be honest with you, I think he's gonna. I think that's exactly how the Steelers offseason is going to end, with a safety and a wide receiver before week 1.
Hey, Noah.
Yes, sir.
Man, Enigma After Dark.
Yes, sir.
I called in to tell you that Omar Khan is out here doing it and doing it and doing it well.
Yes, sir.
He is on a phenomenal run as the Steelers GM, and his start as our GM has kind of been like the home run derby we just had, just launching balls out of the park, left and right.
I love it.
And some of them, may have landed in the field a little bit,
yeah.
But for the most part, he's killing it. The question I have, if we win the Super Bowl,
yeah,
might this be the greatest offseason in Steelers history?
Wow.
Let me know. Love the show. Gotta go.
Shout out Enigma After Dark, man. I think the greatest single offseason in Steelers history is I don't think I'd put it up there. I don't. Man, it's a good argument for like top 5. It is. I have to really look like Steelers draft classes in the 70s that built that team. I just think they're like the Franco year competes with that for sure. And I think it edges it out. Man, the year that you got Troy, the move that you made there is unreal. You know, the draft classes that you had in the early 2000s or 2004 to 2010 were just crazy. I think that's up there for sure. I think if you are breaking down of veteran edition offseason, of an offseason where the Pittsburgh Steelers went out and made trades that weren't the NFL draft, I think there's an argument to be made. I do think there's an argument to be made. If they won the Super Bowl, that's a massive if. And I don't think they're the favorites. I don't even think they're top 5 to win the Super Bowl, but I'm not ruling it out. And I feel way better about it today than I did 6 months ago. You know, you told me Justin Fields and the same group that they had last season was going to pull it off. I'd say there's no chance, brother. It's not happening. Today, I think the defense looks really good. I think you won the Minka trade on paper. You know, we'll see what happens, but you essentially swapped Jalen for Minka, which I think is a bare minimum an even trade. And then you got Jonnu, who's a stud. So, yeah, I think you won that one. I think you went out and got Darius Slay, who's a great filler piece. I think you waited for Aaron Rodgers and then signed him cheap. I think you moved on from Najee and replaced him with a better running back. I think you replaced George Pickens with a better wide receiver. And again, like I think the offensive line is, you put it together over the past couple of years, but I think Derek Harmon is the most single-handedly overlooked human being on the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, because nobody wants to talk about a defensive lineman. It's boring. Well, what Derek Harmon might bring to the Pittsburgh Steelers won't be boring. It'll be incredible, actually. So I chalk that up as a massive win. I mean, there's an argument to be made. They'd have to win the Super Bowl. You can't come short. If you go to the AFC Championship game and lose, you're just like the Eagles' dream team. You're like the Jets' dream team. Like, you're just one of those teams that put a bunch of veterans on a team to try to make it work, and it didn't work. But if you win the Super Bowl, it worked, and you just pulled it off. So you got to at least have some sort of historical conversation. I don't disagree. I like it. I think Omar Khan, look at outs, even the Broderick Jones trade that I think of all his draft picks hasn't worked out the greatest. You gave a 4th round pick to move up 3 spots. I'm okay with that. You know, to get a guy who, if he could figure it out, has incredible talent. He just hasn't been able to put it on the field. So I don't think Omar's missed. You know, I really, truly don't. I think they've made mistakes, but I don't think Omar Khan's really missed. You don't sign TJ, it's all over. But if you sign TJ, which I think they're gonna, I'm pretty convinced it's gonna happen at some point. Then yeah, there's a conversation to be had for sure. Shout out Enigma After Dark. That's a good one. And with that, guys, I'm heading out here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of the AST Call-In Show. Shout out to all of our members and everybody who called in. If you want to become a member and call into next week's show, you can do so by checking and clicking the link in the video description below. Can't thank you guys enough. Remember, please, that today's flagship show will be pre-recorded. It will not be live. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to see Creed tonight. Can you take me higher? I hope I have a voice tomorrow afternoon. I hope I have a voice, but I can't. No promises. But we do have a pretty cool interview lined up for it. So make sure that you're checking that out. Very excited for it. And with that said, guys, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/AllSteelersTalk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. Go to Apple Podcasts, hit download all. We're trying to be top 10 by the end of the year. When the Christmas whole year wrap-up thing comes out, I want All Steelers Talk right up there. And find all my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We'll be back later. Until then, enjoy another Beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.